In the summer of 1666, when the deadly plague swept through London, a young Isaac Newton, then just 23 years old, sought refuge at his family estate in Woolsthorpe, Lincolnshire. It was here, in the quiet countryside, far from the chaos and fear gripping the city, that one of the greatest scientific revelations in human history would take root. Legend says it began with something simple, a falling apple. One warm afternoon, Newton sat beneath an apple tree in the orchard of his family home, lost in deep thought. He had long been fascinated by the mysteries of motion, pondering why planets moved in predictable paths across the sky, while objects on Earth seemed to obey entirely different rules. As he watched an apple detach from its branch and drop to the ground, a question struck him with sudden force. Why did the apple fall straight down? Why not sideways or upwards? What invisible force compelled it to seek the earth? This apple, whether it truly struck his head or merely fell nearby, became the spark that ignited Newton's towering genius. He began to consider that the force pulling the apple downward might be the very same force that governed the motion of the moon around the Earth. If gravity extended beyond the treetops, perhaps it reached into the heavens, controlling the dance of the celestial bodies. Back inside his modest study, with its wooden desk and flickering candlelight, Newton began to calculate and theorize. He recalled Johannes Kepler's laws of planetary motion, which described how planets moved in elliptical orbits, and Galileo's experiments with falling objects, which showed that all things fell at the same rate regardless of their mass. Could there be a single law, a universal principle, that united these seemingly separate ideas? Newton proposed that every object in the universe attracts every other object with a force that is proportional to their masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. It was a bold, audacious claim, one that required rigorous mathematical proof. For months, and then years, Newton worked in solitude, driven by an insatiable curiosity. He crafted equations that described not only falling apples, but also the precise orbits of the planets. He realized that the same force causing the apple to fall also kept the moon in its path, preventing it from flying off into space. This was a profound unification of celestial and terrestrial mechanics, something no one had fully achieved before. His work didn't stop with gravity. During these fertile years, Newton also formulated his famous three laws of motion, which explained how forces act on objects and how motion changes as a result. The first law stated that an object will remain at rest or move in a straight line acted upon by an external force. The second law quantified this change, stating that force equals mass times acceleration. The third law introduced the principle of action and reaction. Every force exerted has an equal and opposite force in return. These laws became the bedrock upon which classical physics would be built. But Newton's journey was not without challenges. He was a deeply private man, often reluctant to share his discoveries for fear of criticism. It took the encouragement and prodding of fellow scientists, such as astronomer Edmund Halley, to convince Newton to publish his groundbreaking work. Halley even financed the publication himself, recognizing the monumental importance of Newton's theories. Years later, in 1687, Newton compiled his revolutionary ideas into his magnum opus, Philosophiae Naturalis Principia Mathematica, commonly known as the Principia. This massive tome laid the foundation for classical mechanics, turning Newton's once private musings into universal laws that would guide science for centuries to come. The Principia not only detailed his law of universal gravitation, but also provided the mathematical framework that explained the motion of objects both on Earth and in the heavens. The story of the falling apple became a symbol, not because of its simplicity, but because it illustrated Newton's extraordinary ability to see profound truths in ordinary events. While the apple's descent was an everyday occurrence, Newton's insight turned it into a gateway to the cosmos. He showed that the same force binding an apple to the earth, vast motions of planets and stars. His laws of motion and universal gravitation explained not only the behavior of objects on Earth, but also the intricate mechanics of the solar system and beyond. They enabled precise predictions of planetary movements, eclipses, and tides, and laid the groundwork for advances in engineering, astronomy, and physics. These laws remained unchallenged until the 20th century, when Einstein's theory of relativity provided a deeper understanding of gravity. Thus, from the quiet orchard of Woolsthorpe and the humble fall of an apple, Isaac Newton unveiled the invisible threads that bind the universe together. Genius forever changed humanity's understanding of nature's deepest laws, and his legacy continues to inspire scientists and dreamers to this day, as they seek to uncover the mysteries that still lie beyond the stars.